This is the Map Scout Challenge brought to you by OnX, where we examine the map, assess features like terrain, habitat, and access, then go out and rip it apart in person.
And right now we're going to show you the results, no holds barred, so that next time you go to public land, you have the confidence to scout, hunt, and kill whatever you're after.
Seriously just happened.
Ooh, it is cold this morning. It says it's 32 out when I just started my truck. Weatherman says it's 29. It is blustery. It is wet, as you can see. Hopefully the rain will stay away for the most part for the morning so we can get a few spots scouted out here in Oklahoma, and then I'm gonna head on home. So first up, we're looking to try to find some spots that are near ag and maybe close to river bottom, creek bottom type stuff. Just typical good deer hunting habitat.
That dot that you sent me, that's why I think that parcel would be the best hunting, because it leads basically into this crop field on the back side when it's planted. Because like you said, on a map everything looks so far apart, and then you start driving around, you see how connected everything is when you feel like, oh, on the map that's like 2 miles from where that's going to be. There's no way they're probably going to that. Right. And then you get there and you're like, because all this stuff's big, pretty big, you know, timber wise, but it's just not a big patch of it. I don't see all this stuff, but
yeah, it does.
Which that stuff on the edge of the tree line looks real tall, so they're probably still skirting the edge around that deal. As I said, that's the worst part about this time of year, is it's late enough that, like you said, they're only worrying about food and bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
like all of this could be bedding, you know.
Right.
Like it's good looking habitat. It's just like where are they going to be eating? It's going up here where the road kind of turns back. It looks like, I mean, if that's the same farmer, it is the same farmer, so it's probably not planted. Unless it didn't flood. We can go check that field.
Yeah. So
it's like if you do find a standing cornfield or something, it could be good. Ooh,
bless you.
Thank you. This is actually a pretty unique challenge. If you look at a lot of this stuff on this map is like stuff that's approachable normally in dry conditions, but since it's been wet, like if you're willing to walk when it's been wet, say, like you could get to some probably pretty unpressured deer overall if you're willing to walk down roads, or like you said, if you have a truck that you just want to baja with.
If you're not far from home and have somebody to call to get you out when your baja doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah. But like now that I see what some of these roads look like down in here, it's like you can probably guess that anything near river or creek system is going to look similar. I mean, but there's a definite pinch right here. Deer traveling up and down that river system that I think, you know, is about a half mile. And at some point we're going to have to get out. We're getting to where we're getting close to the lake, kind of, and it's just going to really be all nasty. So we might just have to get out. Well, there's again deer tracks right up here by the parking area, by the road, but there's also some boot tracks in here, so we got about a half-mile walk. That'll filter some people out a lot of times, so we'll see if that's the case right here. If it's not, then we probably won't be hanging a camera in here. Well, it didn't take long to maybe figure out that those boot tracks, one of them did look like kind of like a wader boot to me. I thought it might just be a rubber boot, but this pond right here, we just jumped 3 mallards off of it. Wes made a good point that a lot of people do coon hunt around here still. and that they'll bring their dogs in and that kind of thing. So. I haven't really seen what I wanted to down in here. It got real thick as we got close to the river, about the time we got to that fence line on both sides of the trail, and we saw one more boot track. There's some bur oaks, it looks like they've been eating here, some red oaks. There's quite a few tracks, but with the human activity in here and just the lack of like a defined trail down here along the river system, I don't know that I'm going to hang a camera in here. I think it's just too little reward for the risk involved. We don't really have a whole lot of spots picked out that we can still go to at this point, but I'm going to try to get a camera somewhere up so that Wes can come back, check it, and we can show y'all some video. Anyway, with that said, we got to move on pretty quick, I think.
Down on a Friday, hey y'all, come on over my way. This life, everybody wants to put a smile on mine. Got those five skates pumping in the backseat.
Already. Deer sign.
It is. It's definitely deer.
This is the first sign of deer sign.
Reminds me of home a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. Thick oak trees, plum, a little bit of CRP mixed in.
You better trademark that.
It's a crow. I was like, what is that walking out there? Here's what I'm thinking on this. If this stuff, I paid attention to it, that it was possibly flooded a little bit, but being in an ag field, you never know. But it is, it's flooded. So I think that takes and definitely gives us a, we know basically that deer are probably going to come out from here to here.
Right.
This little group of trees, this little island, I think is a pretty good spot for a deer to transition and dip out into the field, different places. Also, like back in this little corner right here, keeps visually secluded from roads and stuff like that, or houses,
Right.
So I think they would feel real comfortable behind that.
Well, I know when I always, that's what I was say, I know when I always look, they're in this area.
The unfortunate thing is the public stops back over here, so
right.
You pretty much have to hunt deer coming right in here, which there's like a telephone line.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So I imagine that's an edge where you might find a scrape or some rubs or whatever. So we'll go check that out. Probably hang a camera in here if we find a good trail or something and roll out.
In the group, she's home when I'm away. So I breathe in, I breathe out. Every little moment is a chance to shout. Her smile, those eyes, starting up a fire deep down inside. My love, my love, my love, my love. My love, my love, my love is coming back to life.
We're getting to where I've got to go home pretty soon. I'm probably past when I should be going home to get stuff done this evening, but with the rain and the wet roads, we didn't really get to do exactly what we wanted to. So it kind of put us in some positions where we were looking for map dots this morning, and that kind of thing. Looking for ag that was actually wasn't flooded out. So there's actually a bean field down here. The hawkers are using it, so I think there's still beans and food in it. There's a ton of really good oak trees down here. They're swamp oaks, so I would think in like November they're probably putting off, and deer and stuff are probably getting after them. I think you could hunt the edge of that bean field near private right there, and probably in November pick up deer cruising up and down there, just scent checking does. You could do it on a south wind, and you'd blow your wind back over the food, not worry about them in the afternoons and that kind of thing, midday. But this is like a little bowl right here that I feel like it's close to the road, but the parking area is back this way. A lot of guys are going to come back in this way, I think, and try to dive off close to that field back down there. We saw a lot of flag and tape. I think this might be a hole where there's not a whole lot of action, even though we do have a for sure stand tree over here not far. But there's several rubs in this little bowl. I think it's just staging before deer move and filter out probably to this bean field over here and this cornfield over here. So who knows, there's rubs here now. Who knows what's going to actually show up on this camera, but we're going to put the Exodus on video mode again and just rely on it. I'm going to put it up high in this tree so that hopefully it doesn't get stolen if somebody comes in here, and also so that when you put them up high they have a wider field of view for what they can sensor, the sensor can trigger on, and also what it can see. So and this camera has a pretty good field of view anyway, so gonna do that, hang it up, head back to the house. Need to be a little bit fatter stick. Hope for the best.
So a big thanks to Toby Keith, Bob Stoops, Barry Sanders, the other Barry Switzer, all these guys for putting this place on the map. We're in Northeast Oklahoma, or I'm not. Tyler was. I didn't get to make this trip. So Tyler, what is up in the NEOK?
There is no NFL team there. So they love their college football. Other than limited NFL teams, there are limited crops in the area. I noticed that there also was lots of cover, which equals lots of deer, and that it is prone to flood.
Prone to flood. So not a Texas flood, but an Oklahoma flood.
That's right, yeah. Well, we can't credit Stevie Ray with this one. It's lowland, it's built around a lake, right? We see this a lot with public land, but especially here with this flat, low lake system that comes in right here at the north end of this lake. And so you're gonna deal with basically what we dealt with from time to time, where you've got crops or just habitat that's flooded out and deer just pretty much can't use it. In a lot of places in the country they would say, well, you're gonna, there are gonna be different islands and stuff that are created that deer are gonna bed on, and they'll find these habitats, but there's not big enough hills in this area to really keep habitat enough for several whitetails to get on, I feel like. So they're just gonna push up to higher land out of the bottoms. It's going to create less habitat, and then also it's going to really mess with your game plan, I think, which it did with us a lot. We really struggled to find, it seemed like every spot we went for the first 3 or 4 hours, we were like, oh, well, this is flooded too. Oh, well, I can't get down there because this road was flooded a week ago up to here, and it's just a mess. And even in 4-wheel drive, there's a chance we get stuck, and I'm not trying to get stuck today. No. So that's kind of the stuff you're going to deal with in this area. So if you're going here, or you're going maybe to this area of the U.S., and you're around a lake or creek system, on a WMA, I would think you definitely want to keep tabs on it going up to, leading up to your trip, just to make sure that you're able to hunt the spots that you've picked out on the map.
So is that what limits the amount of crops, or is there just not a lot of ag land around there?
I think I don't think it's the only limiting factor of the crops. I think that there's some hay production in the area, I think. There's also some CRP buyout stuff going on there. But with the limited crops, I think you're gonna have the opportunity to find crops that are in, and it's gonna focus deer into that area big time. I think it's gonna help you out. If you can find the crops, you might have to drive some, but if you can find some crops in the area, then you're gonna have a good hunt ahead of you, I think. So definitely a help. And there's also a lot of cover on this place because it's floodland. They're not planting a whole lot of it, either in hay or in crops that are good for deer. So that cover is creating a ton of cover for deer, and being that this is a relatively southern WMA, there's really something for them to eat all year long. They're not dealing with hard freezes too much and stuff, so they don't have to have crops to survive. But it definitely helps with deer numbers in a lot of places. Here, though, I think we're good. We're in a warm enough climate that's a good deal for you. And I think that having those deer numbers is going to make your experience better, as far as just you go out, you pick a spot on the map, And even if you aren't sure about it, you're probably going to see some deer. And the thing is, when you see deer, you can make adjustments from there. Now, the issue is when you go somewhere that has low deer numbers and you don't see deer because you didn't hang in the best spot at first, you're going to end up being pretty sad because you don't know what to do. You just spinning your wheels, it feels like. So this is not one of those places, and with the liberal bag limits that Oklahoma has in place, I think you could have some fun out here. Not to mention there's a rifle season during a good part of November as well, usually. So
yeah, cool. Well, let's check out the map and look at some of these good places.
Let's do it. Best I can come up with, this is Oolagah Lake. It's a lot of land around this lake. I think that it's a lot of core land, maybe some like timber company land. I don't really know. Luckily I had Wes with me to make me feel pretty comfortable with a lot of this stuff. We spent a lot of time up in the north end of this lake, and a lot of that was what I talked about earlier. We dealt with floods, so the further you get down towards the lake, the more that stuff's going to be flooded out. So we had to spend a lot of time up as high as we could. The first spot we want to start here is at the very tip top of this thing, and this is where we hung the camera. What we could see was this looked like a bunch of beans right here. And so, a big block of timber next to beans and some broken stuff in the field, you've got a good opportunity to have some deer around, I think. So what we did was we walked this entire fence line of the bean field all the way into here, and we walked to this little power line cut right here. And I was thinking, man, there's possibly some deer that are gonna hang out in this corner right here, kind of shielded from the road there, just hanging out in here. So much Canada geese out in here. Didn't actually see a ton of sign right in here around this, and I don't know if deer are going to be using this way back corner more. Unfortunately, you can't really hunt very close to that because of the way this public lays out. But right in here, kind of on the west side of this island right here, we saw a lot of deer sign, lots of tracks and stuff that were coming kind of north and south into this field. And we just didn't find a great place to hang the camera. And again, I didn't want to put Wes too far out, and especially if I wasn't like super stoked about a place. And so we moved it up here into an area that's pretty neat. You can't really tell from the topo lines here, but there's kind of like a bowl and a little bit of elevation type stuff going on right in here where we hung the camera. We hung it up really high, used a step to get up there and pointed it down. And we actually got a lot of trail camera photos and sequences right through here on this camera. This camera had a couple of bachelor groups of bucks that were like ginormous. I mean, I think there was like 9 bucks in one photo at one point. Whoa. And we had a couple of decent bucks. The good thing is, in Oklahoma, you get 2 buck tags. So if you want to, you can shoot one of those bucks and wait on something bigger. That's a good thing. We don't deal with that very often,
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Saw a big buck that was, I think he was like a 3-point on one side and he had shed the other side. So kind of cool to see all that. Obviously, this is an area that you're gonna, if you hunted, you're probably going to see some people here and there. It's not far from the road. This road actually does continue on through here, but it was really good. And we did see some people on our camera actually, but there was some really interesting stuff going on right in here. And I was pretty thrilled with the way this camera turned out, considering that it is only 150 to 60, 70 yards from the road, so pretty neat. But it is, out in the sticks, and there's a ton of timber here to hunt. So finding something might take some boot scouting in the area, but I think that there's a lot of deer in that area, and you can just, you're going to have to get down there. You can't just find it straight from the map here.
Well, that's one of the big concepts of hanging trail cameras is usually you're not shooting deer that are in the frame of your trail camera. You're trying to find some bucks, and then you use your boots and your map scouting ability to be able to look at that and say, where can I go on this map that I can go shoot that deer in the daylight?
Sure. A lot of times map scouting is getting a camera out to figure out from there where to go. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we did. And obviously, it was dry up there. So this time around, that's what we did. A place that I really wanted to hang a camera, one of the first places that I saw on the map, and I just put a dot here on the road. We pulled off here, we checked some of these fields. These fields are flooded out at this time of year when we did this, and there were not beans here, but there are beans here in normal years, I believe. And so if there's a lot of broken timber here. There's some sloughs that are from probably at river oxbows and that kind of thing over the years. And you can just tell if you look along this river system, there are all kinds of potential funnels, you know what I mean? And so I didn't really mark up any one in particular, but there's an opportunity for all kinds of funnels, even a you know, side creek crossing here, something like that you might be able to figure out. But yeah, you know, the thing about this particular area is the lines are tricky. So you need to have a good mapping system like onX to help you out here to make sure that you're not trespassing, because the lines are very, very difficult and it doesn't necessarily follow the timber completely. So you actually had a spot though that I thought looked pretty good too. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm always drawing these little obscure little side places or whatever, smaller pieces of timber, because everybody's just going to go and try to find the biggest block of timber they can and hunt it. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people will. This place here intrigues me because there is a county road that goes to it, but a good substantial part of this little piece is actually across the creek. It's Big Creek, big one apparently. So you got to pull down on this county road, pull up on the edge, and figure out a way to cross Big Creek. I'm assuming if the creek's pretty big, you're going to need something more than just rubber boots, okay? So it's going to take a little something to get there. And yet again, it's another place where you're looking at a river bottom area, but some way, somehow, there is quite a bit of terrain, and it looks like there's 100 foot of elevation drop from the very tip tops down to the bottom here. So same situation where you're going to have deer that are pinched by terrain up against a creek. Now, that map dot probably isn't in the best spot because it looks like it's kind of mostly like
On
that's
private.
Yeah, it's on private, but I just kind of threw it in that general area.
There's an opportunity.
Yeah, but what I'm really attracted to is that little oxbow peninsula finger, whatever you want to call it, of the river. It just seems like a deer bedding area, especially since it's the one spot of bottomland timber on this side of the creek that backs up to this ridgy type stuff back here. Now there definitely will be deer bedding up in these ridges and stuff too, but it just looks like a place where you can definitely find a pinch that comes down maybe there, you know, a little bit north of that dot right there where Big Creek comes up to the little ridges or whatever there. I mean, you're gonna find a pinch with some trails. It's just a good looking spot that maybe guys aren't willing to go in and try and figure out whenever they know they can go sit on a bean field further down south and probably shoot a deer.
Yeah, I like it a lot, man. You know, up on top of these ridges, that's grazing, I guess, for the most part. So it's kind of open, so you know you've got some pinch from that side as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So I really do like that. I actually looked at that piece, and I believe that we could not get there because of muddy roads and flooded stuff. So,
yeah.
So this is a pretty big track right here, and this road, let's see, it looks like, you know, that's not going to actually be a two-track right there. So that's kind of cool. You would have to, you know, come in from quite some ways. I think it's going to probably be, the road's going to end up somewhere down in here or maybe at this homestead. And so then you're working on basically, you know, quite some distance here. Let's just look. If we were to go from the homestead to this particular dot, it's, you know, almost 8/10. And so good haul, and you know, you got to definitely be mindful of your access and where the deer are with your access. But you're looking at an edge here, which appears to be part of this fence line, this old fence line. And so like what I noticed on the maps before they updated recently is that there was a trail, I think, coming off the edge of this, and you can kind of see one right there, I believe. Still.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes to that, what we call a landmark tree, off the edge of what I suppose is that fence right there. And I don't know if it's still up or what, if that's the last T-post or what. But there's also a trail coming out right in here where I have this dot marked and kind of zipped across this little opening throughout this brush and stuff, and probably hit what is the continuance of this ditch right here in a good spot for them to cross somewhere right in here. So deer were moving kind of east and west here, which sets up, I've said it before, but I like an east and west travel spot because you've got north and south winds a lot. So you can usually find a place or a way to hunt a deer that's traveling east or west a lot of times.
And you don't have to look in the sun.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
It's not fun to be there in the evening and hunting deer that are west of you and just right in your face.
Yeah.
And not to mention you get, you know, all that light on you, you're a lot easier to see as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I like that spot a lot. We did not get to see that because of flood waters, and then another place that we didn't really get to see because of flooded area. This whole patch was basically flooded right here, and most of this field was flooded. And we got down about to the edge of this field and turned around right there, I believe. But this is just another area where around what would normally be beans was not beans because of the flood. I think you've got several little funnels and different edges right in here, and I think like deer moving from this big block of timber could come up this fence line. You'd stand a chance at seeing deer that way if you didn't want to pattern them down in this big bottom. And then other deer that are bedding out on this giant, which you might call an oxbow, would be using this funnel system right in here. So anyway, I like, even just during the rut, you think about this stuff back here, is possible doe bedding. Pretty far from the road. You're probably not going to see many people back over in here. The farmer's going to come through and reap the harvest once a year. So anyway, good stuff. There's a lot of potential on this property. Tons of timber, like I mentioned earlier. There's going to be tons of deer. A lot of it, you're just going to have to use terrain features and other edges that you'll see from the map scouting to get you in to a particular area, and then you've got to use a little bit of legwork to make things really happen and to dial in for bow hunters. For rifle hunters, man, you could do some really awesome stuff just taking a lever action 30-30 and walking through the timber real slow into the wind,
Especially if the water's up and those deer are concentrated somewhere, man.
Yeah, man. That would be so much fun. I would love to do something like that. So anyway, that's something that we're entertaining apparently at this point. I hope you are entertaining, maybe watching a few more of these episodes. If you liked what this is and where it goes and all the information that you're getting from it and that we've tried to give you, there are more. So right here is a link to the one in Kansas. There are plenty more. We did, I think, 10 this year. So there are lots of options for you to look at, especially if you want to go out of state and look at some of these potentially just large tracts of area that give you plenty places to go and plenty of deer to shoot. So if you like this kind of content, make sure and subscribe. It helps us out tremendously, and hopefully this kind of content helps you out tremendously as well.
Yeah, that's right. And be sure and comment below if you see anything we missed on this map or you have any other ideas. Also, let us know if there's other places, other parts of the country that you'd like us to go and map scout for you, because we love doing this and we love helping, and we can all learn a ton about this stuff together. So remember, this is your element.
Live in it.